Good morning, and well, seems like all participants are on the line for our global panel, and we're going to get started this morning. First of all, I'd like to give a big thank you and marketing department for helping coordinate this global panel across multiple time zones and countries around the world. It's easier said than done, I can assure you. I also want to give a quick thank you to our participants coming from various different countries in Europe. I'll let them give a little bit more of an introduction themselves, but we have on the line Gary Littman. We have Sven Wheatbach from Germany, as well as
Hello, everybody. My name is Gary Littman. I'm Managing Director of JK United Kingdom and Ireland. I also happen to be Chairman of the UK Sunbird Association, and I'm very happy to be here with you all today. Look forward to it.
Thank you, Gary. Sven, how about you up next? Give us a quick introduction, tell us who you are and what you do with JK.
Hey, my name is Sven Wheatbach, and as you can see in my name, I've skipped my last name. It's a complicated German name. I'm Director Sales Export with JK. I work with JK. Gary, you're smiling. I work with JK since 2003, responsible for all exports worldwide. And I'm very excited to be on that panel and looking forward to have a meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sven. Pian, you're up next. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you're involved with JK.
Hi there, my name is Pien Geerlings. This is a Dutch name, so we're really international today. I started working at JK Netherlands in 2016, but we also have a tanning salon since 2014, so I've been involved with Ergoline since that time. And I made a switch from JK Netherlands to Germany in 2019. So yeah, this is where I'm at now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pian. And last but not least, I'm Bryn Scarborough, President and Managing Director of JK Products and Services in North America. You've heard from me before, so I'm so excited for you to be able to hear from some of our global partners today as well. You know, one of the things that COVID has really brought out over the last year is how important it is to be able to have a grander or broader perspective when it comes to some of the challenges and obstacles that we face, which is exactly why we brought the global panel today. It has been a great benefit to not only me personally, but our entire organization to be able to share ideas, share obstacles, and share struggles over the last year, and also take feedback about how we're moving forward to either reopen, reinforce ideas of cleanliness with our customers, or even gain a bit of perspective sometimes. And remember that we're not the only ones in a difficult situation. Some people have it much worse, some people have it much better. So it's a great opportunity for us to open up our mindset a little bit and also gain some perspective from other parts of the world that are experiencing what we hope is the only global pandemic in our lifetime. But there's certainly no playbook. There's no book that's been written yet for managers about how to manage a modern business in a pandemic. And maybe someone on the line today is going to write one. But until we have it, we have to rely on each other to be able to get through these challenging times and also look for opportunities to not only respond, but grow the business as well. We have a few questions that we have organized throughout the global panel today, and we'll work our way through. Encourage you to enter any questions that you might have into the ideas page and on the browser for the Ergoline experience today. We'll be able to respond to those and answer some of your questions as they come up over the next hour or so. So I encourage you to get involved, to get engaged, and let us hear from you about what's on your mind. How can we be of benefit to you today? So to get started, let's start with our first question and first topic of the day, which really centers around marketing. We have the experts on the line today, and so I'm interested to hear from all of them. Pian, I'll go ahead and start with you. In your marketing experience, what have you learned over the last 18 months, or what are some of the most important lessons you've learned over the last 18 months to be able to respond to unforeseen circumstances?
So the first and most important thing is that you can have a great plan and throw it away when something like this happens. But the other thing I learned is, stick together, work together, communicate with your global partners. I've had a lot of contact with the US team actually over the past months, which has been a great support. But our global partners as well, like everyone is in a different situation, but it's still all related to the same thing. So my biggest advice would be, don't be afraid to go with the flow and don't be afraid to change your plans, because, you know, a plan is just something written on a paper, but you have to make it happen and see what the situation in that moment is.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. Yeah, I know that we have all worked through the obstacles of not only throwing away our plans, but pivoting and making new plans, sometimes responding on an almost daily basis to health updates, to requirement updates in the business. I've also seen a real shift in the last 18 months towards more the acceptance, I should say, of more organic marketing materials. Things that are a little less planned, a little less staged, and sometimes out of requirement, right? We all shifted to at-home workplaces, Zoom platforms like we're on today. Can you respond to that? What have you seen from a content perspective in a shift in consumer attitudes with COVID?
So I think the main thing here is, like you said, the acceptance of the new online tools, or well, not all new, but just the online tools, has become much higher. So where a lot of people still were hesitant and preferred, of course, we all prefer real life meetings or real life marketing tools. We now accept the digital parts more. And for us as a marketing team, this has been very helpful because we've been pushing that for years, actually. So I see big benefits there as well. Especially with our JK Academy that was recently launched in the US already, which will be more adaptable to everyone, since everyone understands the urge and the need of the online communications better.
Yeah, absolutely. JK Academy is something we'll be talking about later today during our marketing presentation, and I encourage you to stay tuned for that as well. Gary, very interested to hear from you on the same topic. I know that you have been out front of marketing and messaging for the UK for a long time, but also very much in command of it since the beginning of COVID. So what have you learned and observed over the last year or so?
Well, first of all, I think a good philosophy on life, or in my life, is to be there for friends when they're down. So whilst we were firstly in shock when COVID hit us, I realized that the most important thing was to be there to support initially our customers, but then the wider industry. So we created very quickly an initiative called Ergoline Sunshine Support. Now, this was not fundraising or selling, this was friend raising, as I called it. And we helped our clients, our salons who were desperate for information. How can they claim money from the government? Where can they access further information? The UK Sunbed Association was out there in front providing the industry with information, but salons still needed that helping hand. So we were able to help salons claim government furlough for their staff, claim government grants, but also educate them in how, when they reopen, how best to attract the clients back to them. I feel very lucky to be in the tanning industry. We've seen the rise of online selling. Well, you cannot get a tan online. So actually, when what we call the high street is suffering, and every day we're hearing announcements of this group going out of business, that group going out of business, not in tanning, I hope that tanning salons, when we reopen, because we're not allowed to reopen until the 12th of April. But when we do, I'm hoping there's a tremendous latent flow of customers who are desperate to tan. Right now, we can't travel. Right now, the sun is not shining, and people are going to want that real ray of sunshine, if you excuse the pun. So we've been there for our customers. We're not going to be announcing on the 12th we're back, because we've never left. We've been there for our customers, and boy, have we. Plus, we've actually been there for people that are not Ergoline customers, and we've raised a lot of friends in this time. So we've spent a lot of time working on our business, not necessarily just in our business. And I think that we're going to do well as a result of all the work we've done during lockdown. So encapsulate that with marketing, but I say friend raising. So we've used it as an opportunity.
Absolutely. And I really enjoy your statement about we're not making a comeback because we never left. That's absolutely true. And that's absolutely the JK Global perspective throughout the pandemic, is to continue to find ways to show up for our customers and to continue to find ways to provide resources worldwide. And that has really been a point of focus for all of us. And also to be able to give those market information and feedback points that you just really can't get anywhere else. Sven, I'm interested to hear from you as well. I know you work extensively in export as well as in the German market. What have you seen, and what themes have you been seeing maybe globally from marketing that have been prevalent over the last year?
Yeah, when you look at a global perspective, I mean, Gary just said it is about being there for friends. And whenever we are in contact with our partners worldwide, and we export to more than 60 countries worldwide, we always speak of the JK family. And I think it has shown more than ever before that this is what it is about. It is a family. And we got closer during that time. We had more exchange, even if there was no business because there was a lockdown and salons were closed. But be there for all the family worldwide really makes the difference. And the big thing is, and the interesting thing is that, of course, you exchange ideas from all over the world. And the markets had always been in different states. I mean, it started first in Asia. So the first ones that went into lockdown were my Asian partners. They were the ones who restarted first. And then you see how it's changing all the time all over the world. But like Gary said, sometimes you just give them a call and tell them, look, I've heard from that country. You can get a state fund or any kind of support. And people are always very grateful and thankful if they get these ideas. And like Pien said, going more digital, of course, is a must, no doubt about it. And the good thing is that we were all moved and pushed into that situation. So it became the new normal. And before, maybe I wrote some email newsletters. Now I just shoot a quick video message and send that out to our partners. And I think that is of great benefit to all of them.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a really common theme among all of us, that not only having to step up our digital game, but going from this mix, or I'll use the term hybrid, in this situation environment where we are going to in-person meetings as well as talking with our customers face to face. We were in the same situation as JK that our operators really were, from having to shift all of their messaging almost immediately to an online or digital environment. And what we've seen from that is, like Pien mentioned, an even more and higher level acceptance of kind of just basic and organic information. I know that we even had the learning curve in the beginning of March of last year of just getting comfortable with the idea that we could do a Facebook Live, or we could do a quick live video without a lot of staging, without a lot of scripting, and just send messages to our customers, let people know how to clean equipment, for example, right? There wasn't a lot of things that we could do to really pre-plan or to set scripts or adhere to marketing schedules. And so that's really changed our ability, I think, not only as an industry, but also as operators and owners, to be able to communicate with our clients and to do that really consistently. Interested to know a little bit more, and I know that we are talking about Sunshine Support as well as some of the other marketing tools that have been provided worldwide. Interested to know a bit more from you about what your vision is for JK Academy. I know that it has launched here in the US. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And tell us how that's being applied globally as well.
So the audio was gone for just a second, Bryn. So I just want to make sure I understood the question. Was it for how we try to roll out JK Academy worldwide, or?
Yes, and we have that coming up in a presentation later on this afternoon for the US, but interested to know a little bit more about your global perspective and view when it comes to rolling out JK Academy and the resources we're providing.
Sure. So JK Academy was much needed, we all think. JK Academy is basically, and I'm sure you will go into this topic more with your customers later, but it's basically an online training platform. And normally we would just visit each other, have a training, or people would come to showroom for trainings. And it would be just easy, and you know what to do when you try the bed, you open it up. But in the meantime, like we just said, the digital environment has grown so much, but this was the only thing really missing in our opinion. So with JK Academy, we want to provide an online schooling platform for every country and all JK partners, where they can log in with an individual password, where they can download the stuff they need for their staff or for themselves, and divided in different topics. One could be like equipment maintenance, one would be not maintenance related, but equipment, like what is sunlight, how does your skin actually, how does a tan come about, what is the difference between a hybrid bed and a normal bed. And Sven actually did all these videos with our video team. So he will be the face of JK Academy, which is a good thing. He is experienced in that, and yeah, it's actually fun. We're quite excited to launch it, hopefully soon, because it is Ergoline is of course a German brand, but we are worldwide. So we have subtitles. We have English version, German version, and then the English version has subtitles for different countries. So it's accessible for anyone.
Perfect. Thank you, Pian. Yes, I know that when it comes to filming videos, especially for Ergoline and branding, Sven and I have a long history together of lots of bloopers. I hope no one ever finds that video file.
Hopefully not.
So I want to talk a little bit about global perspectives and consumer attitudes towards sunlight. You know, one of the things that we have really noticed over the last year is what I would say is a COVID silver lining, or a positive effect from COVID, is this updated attitude towards vitamin D, an updated acceptance of health and wellness in general. We all know, I hate to say that after the last year, we're not more healthy from spending 9 or 10 months in quarantine. In fact, we all know the opposite, that we are either more depressed, we're sad, we are having worse allergies or even non-COVID flu-like symptoms. All sorts of things are going on, not only from the psychological effects, but also from the physical effects of being in quarantine for so long. And so what we have noticed here in the US is that there's absolutely a change in the consumer mindset about sunlight and about vitamin D. Gary, I'm going to come to you first. I know that you're heavily involved in the ESA, which is the European Sunlight Association, and you've been witnessing these changes as well. So very interested to hear your feedback.
Well, I'd like to encompass the last subject, which is the JK Academy, and then move on, because for me, it's 3 words: education, education, education. First of all, it is very important that salon and salon teams, salon staff, understand the importance of sunshine. And when we see the silly stories in the newspapers, it's normally about abuse, not use. So education is very important to, first of all, make sure that everybody understands how to use our equipment, and that's the salon staff and the consumers. And then we move on to consumer attitudes. I absolutely agree. We have been banging the drum of healthy sunshine for many, many years, and everybody said he would say that, wouldn't he? But really, we've now got a better understanding of the importance of vitamin D in building a strong immunity, and that strong immunity was paramount in helping people fight COVID. So we have seen so much in the newspapers about the importance of vitamin D. Some people, some journalists have linked that to sunshine. Most talk about supplements, but we have to educate the public that supplements or eating certain foods is nowhere near as good at naturally synthesizing vitamin D than ultraviolet. And we provide that facility to help people increase their immunity or improve their immunity, and to be able to lead a healthier life in every aspect. So I am actually delighted to read so much in the consumer press about the sunshine vitamin, even if they add to it after that, take a supplement, because it's educating the public about the word, the sunshine vitamin, and healthy sunshine. Or sorry, I should say vitamin, because I'm on a US presentation.
Like I said, we're all getting a little more comfortable with content these days. So Sven, I'd like to come to you on the same question and hear a little bit more about what you've seen from a global perspective and attitudes towards sunlight.
Like Gary said, I mean, first important thing is the triple E: education, education, education. And it seems that in some cases, obviously, minds have changed. And Gary just mentioned some headlines he saw in the news or in magazines. This exactly the same impression I had over the last 2.5, 3 years, that I read a news line and said, "Oh, told you so." And when you talk to people, it is obvious that people still want to have sunshine. Maybe not as strong as maybe in the past where everything was unregulated, but they lack sunshine. We lack light in general, and it's so obvious when you talk to people, and everybody says, "Yeah, you're absolutely right." And from this point of view, as I'll say, that's the same no matter where you go, no matter if you go to China, if you go to somewhere in Asia, or if you stay in Europe, or if you go to South America. So people's attitude had changed, same as our equipment has changed. I mean, 5-10 years ago, nobody thought about adding beauty light to our UV light. And I think that the whole attitude towards tanning changed the same way we change our equipment, and it works perfectly together. And people still want to go to a salon. It's still a point they want to be at. And like we said before, especially in that situation we're facing now, where people are not allowed or not able to travel somewhere, they're more than happy to go to a tanning salon.
Yeah, and I'd like to build on Gary's point as well about how the tanning industry is uniquely positioned to be able to provide a benefit that you just can't get anywhere else. We know that travel is restricted. It's hard to go get that dose of serotonin or that dose of vitamin D out there on the beaches somewhere. In the US, we're a little bit more free to be able to travel regionally, but there's a lot of, I would say, pent up demand when it comes to people just wanting to take a little mental break, as well as do something positive for themselves with the use of tanning or with the use of hybrid light. And so we're really seeing an opportunity for people not only to be more conscientious about sun exposure, but also to be able to cast a wider net for people who are more interested now than they would have been a year ago, because they are actively seeking ways to feel better, to look better, and to invest in their health and wellness. And this gives us a great opportunity to really preach the message of balance, because we are all a little bit more aware of our health and wellness coming out of a pandemic. We're all a little bit more aware of balance when it comes to maybe a healthy lifestyle or eating or physical exercise. And being able to make sure that we're able to take care of ourselves in the long run. And vitamin D and sunshine absolutely plays a role in that. I want to briefly mention the fact that when we did our Ergoline experience back in November, we provided a page of resources and science that had come out over the last year addressing exactly the topic that we're talking about today. And we will certainly continue adding to those lists of resources, but these are resources that we believe are verifiable, legitimate resources that you can either train your employees with. You should certainly avail yourself of this information and be able to spread from a positive perspective about the impacts of vitamin D and sunshine. So certainly take a look on our website, and we'll be providing additional resources after the Ergoline experience this week as well. So I think it's really interesting. I've been with the company, I believe, around 9 years, rolling over 9 years now. I still feel like in some ways it's a lifetime, and in other ways I'll always be the rookie. But it gives us a great chance to kind of stop and reflect. And when I reflect over the last 9 years, I realize that in spite of the pandemic, the tanning industry and sunlight in general has received better messaging and better press in the last year than it ever has. We've seen more positive information come out, more balanced information come out than we've ever seen, or certainly that I've ever seen. And I know that that experience is similar in other parts of the world as well. So it also comes back to education. It's about educating your operators as well as your employees to be able to speak to this new messaging and speak to these new consumer attitudes that are changing. You know, we are all a little bit more open to trying things when it comes to maintaining health, maintaining wellness. We've seen a pretty big revolution when it comes to the acceptance of various different light spectrums, for example. And that question I'd like to dig into a little bit because it's been a little different throughout the world. But think about red light, for example. 9 or 10 years ago, red light was really considered something that was on the fringe. It was out there in kind of woo-woo land, and we weren't really sure about it. We weren't really sure about the effects. Fast forward to today, coming out of a pandemic, not only is red light accepted, blue light's accepted, various different light spectrums, as well as different types of devices and wellness applications and modalities that we would have never considered before. Halotherapy is a great one, for example, or even at-home devices and supplements. Interested to know, Sven, from you, I'll start with, what are you seeing when it comes just to a general openness to other modalities? What modalities are you seeing from a global perspective that people are showing interest in in a commercial setting? Let's say not necessarily at home, but in a commercial setting.
My feeling is that people became more and more aware of that we can actually provide the best possible solution for getting light in its full spectrum, in its full power, if you can't get it outside. And we can't get it outside. Like I said before, we all light deficient. I mean, we go to work in the morning, it's dark outside, we sit underneath artificial light all day. And people realize more and more that our lifestyle is just not natural. I mean, normally we would have been outside day in, day out. And people realize that going to a tanning salon and having anything from UV light to, like you said, red light, beauty light, blue light, and whatever spectrum it is just a great chance and possibility to do something for their health and add it to the other things they do, like eating healthy, working out, and that sums up to an overall changed approach to how should I live my life and how should I do a good life.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're seeing that here as well. It's just a real evaluation of our social illness, really to question. What other modalities are you seeing of interest? What openness from maybe parallel applications or even other pieces of equipment are you seeing in the UK? What are the trends?
Well, if you go back many, many years ago, people who were vegetarians were seen as unusual. Then vegans came along, they were seen as unusual. So actually, people are beginning to understand that old expression, we are what we eat. And I feel the same when it comes to light therapy. Years ago, I used to hear about chromotherapy and the advantages of light, and that was seen as esoteric. It was seen as almost something a bit out there. But what we've been able to show in the last few years is it does matter. As Sven said, we've spent the best part of 2020, not in isolation, but certainly more inside than we should have been. And people, I think, are learning and they are almost self-educating. And the consumer press is talking much more about light therapy. So I think that Ergoline is right on trend. We understand light therapy very well, and the products that we've got today take advantage of all the latest trends. But I don't want to use the word trend because it's almost, if it's a trend, it may not be serious. I think it's very serious, and I think the consumer is much more educated today than they were at least a year ago, if not longer.
That's a good point. I mean, the almost overflow or inundation of information that we're all exposed to has had positive and negative effects. One of the positive effects is that we all are so much more informed, or generally the consumer is so much more informed about what in the past would have been viewed as alternative. And you're right, Gary, it's not necessarily a trend anymore. It's just further acceptance of other ways and other opportunities to take care of your health and wellness. So very interesting there. I think we will circle back to this topic over time because it is certainly one that we will continue to address as we are repositioning ourselves or evaluating our market position when it comes to not only reopening, but how do we respond to COVID? How do we respond on a one-on-one customer basis when we have those opportunities to help educate our users and our clients, as well as our staff, about moving these conversations forward? There's certainly a force when it comes to operators to be able to be a tool to implement change and implement information, as well as manufacturers. And so we are really encouraging everyone to do their part to have these conversations, avail yourself of the knowledge, educate your staff, use the resources that we've made available for you as well. Talking about reopening, I know that all of us are in various different stages of reopening, and that's actually a topic that I'd like to highlight today because sometimes it gives operators here in North America a good opportunity to see that we're in a fairly advanced state when it comes to reopening compared to other places in the world. I know that it has certainly been beneficial, even from a management perspective, to sometimes realize where we are in comparison to other places in the world. That's not a political statement. That's certainly not an assessment of regulations, but just really understanding where we are along that path. Gary, I will turn to you first. Tell us a little bit more about where you are from a reopening perspective. What is the general state of your regulation, and what do you think you'll see in the next few weeks or months?
Well, first of all, as Ergoline, we've created another scheme to help our clients reopen. We called it Ergoline Echo, Ergoline Enhanced COVID Hygiene Operation. So we have given our clients a kit, if you will, posters to talk about their enhanced hygiene standards. Let's not forget, there are many places, the theatre, the cinema, wherever, where people are going to be a little bit afraid to visit. Most will say after a while, I'm okay with it, but there'll be that initial hesitation. Tanning salons provide one of the safest environments. Tanning is something that is, you go into a cabin or a cubicle on your own. The air change, the amount of ventilation in a tanning salon, we have proved is actually very good for COVID because it's changing very, very quickly. So overall, we have been able to help our customers feel reassured to open, to help them reopen. And I believe, as I mentioned before, there is a latent desire for what we have. I've seen some countries, particularly Belgium, that have reopened, where salons have been absolutely jam-packed busy, and that's a great sign. So overall, I think the tanning industry is going to come out far stronger and healthier than many other retail businesses. And I'm very proud of that, but I'm obviously disappointed for other businesses because we need good employment for people to come and spend their disposable income in tanning salons. But I do believe that the tanning industry will fare greater than many other retail businesses.
And let us know in the UK, what is the status of tanning salons reopening as of today?
In general, we're looking at mid-April. As we speak, all salons are closed. All what we call, or what the government calls, non-essential retail is closed at the moment. The only thing that are open are food markets and what is deemed essential. The UK Sunbed Association achieved something that we're very proud of. The government actually classified us with what they called close contact businesses, like beauty and spa. We were able to convince the government that we are not a close contact business. So tanning salons here would be opening a good 5 weeks before so-called close contact businesses. And those 5 weeks in April are very essential for tanning salons to recoup some of the losses that they've sustained over the last few months. So I'm proud of the work of the Sunbed Association. I'm proud of the work of Ergoline, and I do feel very optimistic that we will be back, I'm not going to say with a bang, but in the positive bang.
Yeah, absolutely. Sven, coming to you on this topic as well, and it's interesting because in the US, and as many of you have observed from around the world, you know, our reopening schedule sometimes varies state by state. Sometimes it varies within a single state by city or county. Even on the regional level, the experience of business reopenings or the experience of operators and consumers is vastly different. And so while we certainly don't have a lot of predictability always in what's going to happen next, from a perspective of either being opened or closed, the US is certainly more or closer to being fully reopened than I believe any of our other affiliates. Interested to hear from you, Sven, as well. What's the current state of salons in Germany? I know there's been quite some talk over the last couple of weeks as well.
It actually, it sounds a little bit similar to your situation, because what we see here is that the counties handle it differently. You know, we have 16 different counties in Germany. Recently, not all of them allowed tanning salons to open, which is in many ways not understandable, because like Gary said, I think one of the safest places to be is a tanning salon. And plus that you have different situation in the counties. It might even be that a city says, okay, we are going to open, or no, we are not going to open. So it's kind of a mixed image at the moment, but similar as in the UK, or I would say in any other country, is that the salons are looking forward to reopen. They have scheduled investments in new equipment because they know that afterwards there will be a run to the salons because people want to go tanning again. It was the same last year after we had the first lockdown in April, May last year. The first week, salons were completely packed and people waited 2 hours, 3 hours to get a tan. And we just recently had a case not too far from where we are located, where people popped into a salon and the operator asked, oh, where are you from? And it appeared that they actually drove 70 kilometers one direction just to have a tan. So,
wow,
like Gary said, everybody's waiting to reopen. And yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, cases will not go up again or come to a stable level. Vaccination will move forward so that we can go back into business.
Sure, absolutely. Pian, interested to hear from you as well concerning the Netherlands. I know that starting out before the end of 2020, that the Netherlands had remained rather open and then seemingly changed courses a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about the experience there.
Yes, so the first lockdown in the Netherlands, they called it an intelligent lockdown, meaning most things remained open except for the big events and trade shows, all that kind of stuff. But stores and tanning salons remained open. I have to say the first 2 weeks were very quiet for the salons because coronavirus was something new and everyone was a bit scared, I would say, shocked, like, okay, what's happening? But there were still people coming in. After those first 2-3 weeks, things returned fairly back to normal. I wouldn't say completely packed like you have normally in spring, but still good. And then all of a sudden, you know, everyone gets used to it. The 3 weeks lockdown were extended. So, okay, yeah, just do what you can do. And about circling back to that news stuff we were talking about earlier, there was actually some news items that said like tanning salons, the only fun thing you can do for yourself in this time. So it's what you said, we were promoted in a very positive, different way because all the like beauty parlors and everything were closed. But then, yeah, December 15th, they announced a new hard lockdown here. Tanning salons were also closed. All stores, all beauty salons, everything was closed again. And now, since I think beginning of March, yes, 3rd of March, the hairdressers were reopened. The stores are reopened. They have to schedule appointments, both of them. But the tanning salons are still closed, which is super strange to us, since we were open in the first intelligent lockdown where hairdressers were closed. So actually this Friday, our Dutch Tanning Association has a law, no, not a law, sorry for my English,
No.
a court date set. So with, against the government, they have a lawsuit. And yeah, we hope that they win so salons can reopen, same as beauty salons. But yeah, for now, most of them are closed, with exception of a few tanning salons who have local approval from their city to open for medical reasons only, which makes it very confusing. Because like Sven just said, people are willing to drive like an hour or so to get a tan. And yeah, since it's deciding on a local level, some salons get now customers from different parts of the Netherlands.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen that here as well. And just to remind anyone who's listening today, you know, you could be at various stages of reopening. You could be at various stages of capacity limiting, no contact check-ins. There's many different iterations or interpretations of a reopening schedule that we've seen nationwide. And while you can't necessarily create an individual tool for each one, we have certainly made tools available similar to what Gary was talking about with their initiative Echo, with practices and resources to be able to reopen from a intelligent perspective on our website as well. So I encourage you to circle back to those if those items are still relevant to you. If you are still going through reopening practices, you know, it was a hopefully a fairly rare occurrence that, you know, we address a situation where an operator comes back into their business after being closed for multiple weeks, right? There's not very many situations outside of natural disaster, which we also saw this year, that you would close your business, literally lock the doors for weeks at a time, and then walk back in, turn the power back on, and pick up again. And so we really tried to put ourselves in the shoes of operators who were also experiencing these things for the first time right along with us. So those resources are out there, as well as how to smartly power down and power back up your equipment. You know, sometimes it's very basic, but you may not have flipped the breaker on all of your equipment ever before, or turned it all back on at one time. So these are things that can really cause some operational interruptions in your salon if they're done haphazardly. So we certainly encourage you to look out for those resources and go access them. They're all available online, as well as reopening checklists, cleaning checklists. We all learned the difference between cleaning and sanitizing, disinfecting and sanitizing a piece of equipment this year. So there's tutorials there as well that are all great for your staff to continually avail themselves of or continually expose themselves to, so that everybody is reminded of the best practices. Everybody should be upholding cleaning standards and even social distancing. And what we saw when customers were getting ready to go back to the salon, when salon operators were really being very public and transparent about their cleaning practices, is sometimes even showing exactly what the customer experience is in the salon after reopening. These were tools that were very well received by customers who were sitting at home. Maybe they hadn't been out in a few weeks, maybe they were still quarantined, and they weren't really sure if it was safe to go back to the salon or not. One of the most effective tools that I saw throughout the reopening process and continue to see is just the customer perspective of video of walking in from all the way from the parking lot through contactless check-in to your very own tanning room and back out of the salon with very minimal exposure to other people, very minimum exposure from a social distancing perspective, being able to maintain social distancing. And these are questions that a lot of consumers would really like to have answered before they visit your location to find out for themselves. So when we talk a little bit more about those organic videos and organic marketing content, those are things that are really driving business forward. from a reopening perspective. It helps your customers to be able to see those things online. So we provided tools in pretty much all of our market countries to be able to reopen, and checklists and resources. Also interesting for you to know a little bit more about Sunlink and the resources that they provide, depending on the regulations in your area. To be, many salons were required to provide contactless check-in, remote appointments, remote check-in from the parking lot, those types of things. So they implemented a new tool called Tanline, I believe in March or April of last year, which was ready when customers were ready to reopen, when operators were ready to reopen. So certainly we have various different resources available, not just paper checklists as well, to help you get your business open and also abide by regulations, and to do that from a smart perspective. So I certainly encourage you to check those out. Coming back to some questions we talked about beforehand, from what you have learned, and I know that all countries involved at various stages or waiting to reopen, or could have even been reopened and required to close again in some regions as well. If you have what you think your best and most successful reopening practices are, give me your top 3. What do you learn over the last year, and what have you observed in your markets? Sven, I'll start with you.
Hope I understood everything correctly, because you faded out a little bit. What have we learned? Business is made from people to people, most important thing. And like Gary said before, we talk about friends. Like I always say, we talk about the JK family. It has shown that this is the most important thing in difficult times. May it be a pandemic, or like you said before, I mean, you even have thunderstorms and similar things. That is for sure the most important thing. Second thing is, all of a sudden, the whole world was pushed into digital, and things that we thought before were impossible, or at least unusual, like having video calls, is the new normal, and made things in many ways so much easier. Especially when I think about my overseas partners, it's either a problem to go there or for them to come to Germany. Now we just turn on the computer and I meet with people in Asia, with people in South America, all over the world. Just perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, absolutely.
If you would ask me for a number 3, daring to be non-perfect, which of course is very unusual for somebody from Germany. But we learned from Italy. We learn from all over the world. No, seriously, it doesn't have to be 120% like we normally do it. No, it's about being fast. It's about getting connected. It's about giving first, and you can be sure it will come back anyway.
Yeah, I really like that perspective. And obviously we're experiencing it today as well, right? We had set this expectation coming into COVID that everything be perfectly executed, everything be planned, everything be anticipated. And COVID just wiped out our ability to really plan or see what was happening next. You had to respond in the moment, respond to whatever was going on as quickly as possible. And so we have all had to get a little bit more comfortable with imperfection. I think that is a real good takeaway when you're talking about reopening and adjusting your business practices and adjusting the way that you train your employees. We all have to get a little bit more comfortable with the unknown and being able to flow with the unknown and make adjustments and pivots to that. Very interesting points, Sven. Gary, I'm going to come to you next. Top 3 best pieces of advice for maybe reopening, closing again and reopening, or navigating this process in general.
I think COVID has brought out the best in people and also, sadly, the worst in people. So the most important thing for me is to say to salons, we've all taken perhaps cleanliness and hygiene for granted. What we used to be able to get away with in general, we cannot now. So make cleaning your number 1 priority. It always should have been, but now double down. Make sure that if somebody leaves a packet wrapper on the floor, pick it up quickly. You may be doing that already. Get your team to clean the salon much more regularly. If it was once a day before, make it twice a day now, perhaps even checking the beds more often than you used to on a daily basis. So my first thing is cleanliness. Secondly, understand that the customer is going to be hesitant and help them through that process. Show them the methods, the new things you've implemented to make sure they're safe. And perhaps adjust your opening hours, because when people go back to work, they may not be working the same hours as they did before for the first 6 to 9 months. So those are 3 things I would say quite quickly. Marketing, market the benefits of the business, and essentially make the customer feel welcome, comfortable, and happy.
Absolutely. You know, we have all had the opportunity as various different businesses or services reopen to kind of experience that awkwardness of new regulations, new practices being in place, of fumbling around with a mask or gloves or whatever it is. And it's really important in those situations as operators to put yourself in the customer's shoes. Really make sure that you're testing your assumptions from a customer experience perspective and understand what they experience in your business or your salon space. I think that's more important than ever. We've all had some really strange interactions at the grocery store, maybe this nail salon, or getting our hair done for the first time after COVID, and just trying to move around and maintain distance. And it's important to offer a little bit of grace to your customers, as well as empathy and understanding for what they're going through when they come into your space. The better you understand that, the better you're going to be able to improve the experience for all of your customers, as well as make adjustments comfortably and make those adjustments comfortable for your customers as well. Pian, I'll come to you last. Top 3 best tips for reopening. I know that you've gotten to hear them from all over the world, so interested to hear from you as well.
So my first thing, and I think this is the most important, is communicate, because as soon as your government announces something new or some changes in your current situation, you will get tons of questions from your customers. So be prepared for those situations. We have that here in the Netherlands now with this new restriction where all businesses opened except for tanning salons. So yeah, make sure you have a game plan, which way it is going, and prepare yourself for that. Make sure you have your socials ready, your newsletter ready. It just releases so much confusion for your customers. So if you can take that away, I think that's number 1. And then number 2 is, yeah, I'm going to say it again, it's really go with the flow, because you don't know which direction you're being pushed in, if it's open, close again. Yeah, it's sad, but don't try to, sorrow yourself in that sadness. Get up, stay positive, see what you can do. Make sure you communicate also this part. And yeah, do whatever you can do to prepare, even if it's just a talk with your local government to see what you can do with them, or, with your tanning association. Just stay in touch with other salons. Don't compete with each other. Just make sure together you are stronger in this case. And I think the last thing is, if you reopen, be welcoming. And like you said, try to empathize with the customers, both the customer who is maybe a little bit afraid, but also the customer who is just so happy to get a tan and doesn't want all this COVID related talks. Just try to see in what kind of mood your customer is. Because I can imagine, we talked about COVID so much this last year. Some people just want to come in, relax, get a tan, and just don't think about it for a second. So I would say respect both, both type of customers. Yeah, now you're back.
Okay, if you can probably see me kind of hitting the 4 points here, trying to see where I can make my headphones reconnect. So I apologize for that. I think I heard most of what you said, and what really stuck out to me was to be respectful of customers' feelings or attitudes towards COVID. This actually came up during our panel in November, when we had salon owners, not only from California, but also South Carolina, very different regions of the country, on a panel at one time. And, this was pre-election here in the US. So it's very important regardless of what your personal feelings might be about the pandemic, about fear, mask or no mask, vaccine or no vaccine, politics, it doesn't matter. Your customer's not coming to you for that. Your customer is coming to you to take a break, to take a little mental break, and maybe the only one they're going to get for the day. So we certainly heard that in November, and I think it continues to be important worldwide and here in the US, that you need to be respectful of all customer opinions, regardless of whether you share it. As a business owner, it's certainly your responsibility to do that as well, but you need to be able to safeguard for the people who are really hesitant and are very concerned about going back out in public, as well as those who might think it's a conspiracy, right? You probably have customers in all trains of thought, in all areas of thought as well. So be sensitive to that, and continue to be aware of that moving forward. I apologize if I missed anything there. I do want to talk a little bit about some of the topics coming up in the word cloud. And then we'll talk about, that leads us right into diversification, or what we're really talking about is a seasonless season. On some of the polls, I noticed that you guys as participants answered questions about some of the modalities that you were interested in or you were getting questions about. And the overarching theme of this spring event is really operations as well as diversification. So how can you extend what has been a traditional season in the tanning industry in the past? How can you make that seasonless? What type of modalities are available to be able to do that? And how can you reinforce revenue throughout the entire year instead of just waiting for January to hit when people are tired of winter and tired of being away from the sun? And so JK has put together multiple different modalities that we feel like are highly valuable, as well as work in parallel with our traditional equipment or traditional UV equipment. That's the Beauty Angel, the Well System Relax, Halo Therapy, which you'll hear about coming up after our panel wraps up today. We did a presentation about Hybrid Light yesterday, and the full portfolio of products available with Hybrid to be able to offer that in multiple levels in your salon. So you don't necessarily have to break the bank to be able to bring in a new piece of technology, or to get people to upgrade from maybe your most basic tanning level into a piece of Hybrid, and to get used to that technology as you're bringing in new tanners. So interested, and Gary, I'll start with you. What does diversification or smart diversification mean to you? And how are you seeing operators have success with that in your market?
I think it's very important to, when you diversify, to never forget your core business. And I've seen too many salons almost become a bazaar with too many facilities. So, of course, all year round seasonality is the holy grail. That's what every business wants. So it's important to recognize that instead of just being a tanning salon, be a tanning ambassador. In other words, sell sun protection lotion as well. People, when clients say, oh, I'm going to be on vacation next week, so I won't be in for a few weeks. Have you thought about sun protection lotion for when you're on vacation? In other words, be a tanning consultant, not just a sunbed operator. Of course, there's also moisturizers that can be sold. There's so many additional facilities or additions that can be added onto a business. You've mentioned the red light with the Beauty Angel. You've mentioned the Well System. These are fabulous diversifications that fit in with our core expertise as a company and the expertise of a salon. It's what people understand, using light, maybe a different frequency, for different reasons. And then we come back to the hybrid technology. Some people salons have to learn to market that it's skin improvement, because good skin starts from within. So it's important to feed the skin different nutrients. Of course, with cosmetics, there's another line that can be added, but also understanding really the importance of red light, the importance of the Well System, and how actually we can provide a sort of more comprehensive facility for our clients. And there, I believe we can get somewhere towards a year-round season, which would be marvelous for all concerned.
You bring up a very good point, and I know that throughout the evolution of the tanning industry, and at least in my experience, I think it's interesting that you said bizarre, because I agree with you. The industry has tried different abilities to see what really fits with Ergoline. And that's not that easy to do, honestly. When you're talking about the customer draw, the innovation, it's hard to find that next modality that really commands the same value as your tanning equipment. And so I think we have experienced some of the misses or the attempts that kind of cheapened the experience in the tanning salon. And so it's very important to keep an eye on really high value, high quality, and bringing that overall experience forward in a positive direction. The modalities that we've put together, it doesn't happen overnight to find something that we really feel like stands up with a Prestige 1400 or a Prestige 1600, but allows you to maybe appeal to a wider customer base. You know, we talked about that in November, either cast a wider net or create higher value in your levels of tanning or memberships, and optimally be able to do both. Create a portfolio of services for people who don't necessarily want a tan or don't necessarily want to be in a UV sunbed first, but you have enough value in highly respected and quality modalities that other things can be used as well. And we're seeing a lot more openness from that mindset over the last year as well. You know, 4 or 5 years ago, talking to someone in a tanning salon about bringing in red light or bringing in halo therapy would have been a struggle. It would have been really taking time to convince someone that the ROI was there and it made sense. Now we all understand that it makes sense and the ROI is there. It's what are the best pieces for you and how does it make sense from an investment perspective. Sven, interested to hear from you as well. You really get to experience this all over the world and as well as in Germany. So what are your thoughts on diversification?
First of all, I would like to underline what Gary said. Don't lose your focus. Of course, it's not good to have a tanning or wellness bazaar, but it helps you to get in a different kind of customer. So when you add a well system and a beauty angel to your offer, it will bring you new customers. And it will bring you customers that maybe initially just came for having a massage or just came for having a beauty angel treatment. And then all of a sudden they see some kind of tanning equipment they just don't know, because last time they went tanning was 20 years ago before they got married, got kids and built a house. And all of a sudden they realize, oh, things have changed. They said, oh, why didn't I go tanning for 20 years? And then you have them back. And the good thing is if you have additional products, I can we always tell operators, just give it a try. Don't underestimate your customer. Even in areas where we see so far only heavy users, we may test with putting a beauty angel into the salon. And in the end, 15% of the clients stopped at the beauty angel and they are now fans of the beauty angel and they pay more for the beauty angel treatment than for the standard tanning treatment. And the same goes along with the well system. Or if you combine your standard pay-per-use modality with some kind of subscription modality. And we can see that it brings people into your salon throughout the year. And just the year before, I was in Austria and it was just some 37 degrees Celsius outside. And a customer came in and said, oh, I want to go tanning. And it was clear blue skies outside. And he said, yeah, I know, but it's just too hot outside. I don't want to sweat in the sun. I want to have a relaxing tanning session on an Ergoline bed, and that's it. And then we come back to what Pete said before. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Build your own mailing list. Tell people about it. And I think there is so much possibility. You know that old joke when that shoe sales agent went to India and came back and said, there's no business for us. Nobody wears shoes. And the second guy came back and said, it's huge business. Nobody wears shoes. And I think that is kind of the way we have to go. There is huge potential. There's a much bigger awareness, like you said before. All of a sudden people see, oh, Halo makes perfect sense. Maybe a year or two ago, there was no awareness. If you have people that like fitness, it's very easy to explain to them, look, same as you train your muscles, you must train your skin. It needs to have a certain stress in order to work in an optimal way. And there are so many good stories we can tell, and I think we just have to take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. And it really is a change in awareness. The conversation around additional modalities or additional treatment options has really changed in the last couple of years. Pian, I want to come to you because you really have a unique perspective on not only diversification, but how our brand and how our brand representation has changed over the last couple of years. And you've really played a pivotal role in that. So how are you connecting those two? Because in my mind, they certainly are connected, of how we are representing ourselves to the public as well as offering diversified services.
Yes, absolutely. They are so connected, in my opinion. I think in the past, tanning was just, getting a tan. You did it mainly for the way you looked. And in the past years, we saw a slow shift for more people who had maybe skin issues or some kind of mental issues to when a tanning session could help them. But I think we made the real switch with our rebranding in October 2019. When we said, okay, we are not focusing so much on the tan aspect, as strange this might sound. We are more focusing on a vitamin D level, on the happiness effect, on the mental state, the moment for yourself when you lie there, just closing your eyes, having your mini moment, no one can disturb you. A lot of people always tell me, this is the only time I don't look at my phone. I just connect it for the music, but I don't look at my phone. I don't get distracted. And that's the way not only people's mind has shifted, but I think at Ergoline, we do everything to support that shift. And we are not just a tan. It's not just, oh, I lay on the bed, I get a nice tan. Yes, of course, that will always happen, which is a good thing. But it's also about that moment for yourself where you can just, close your eyes, relax, and don't have to think about anything. And, support that mental break more or less. And especially in times like these, you see that attracts a whole new customer group.
That's absolutely right. And when you look across the various different types of equipment that we have, they all provide that. They all provide that 10 to 12 minutes of distraction, maybe the only place, and that's very true, where you're not looking at your phone. You're not looking at your phone while you're in a hybrid session. You're not looking at your phone while you're in a well system relax session. Maybe in Halo therapy, we don't recommend it, but certainly you could take a break. But people are so much more interested in just taking a breath for a minute, and also really seeing the value in that. I want to come back for a second just in the repositioning of the brand itself, and also what we're seeing from an industry perspective. And I've often said, previous to the Ergoline rebranding, that we were all long overdue. We were long overdue for an update to our imaging that really reflected not only our customers, but a lifestyle perspective that we could endorse. And I say quite often, we came from the Vegas ladies and the ladies who were partying out in the desert for a bachelorette party into a lifestyle perspective that's about balance, health, wellness. It's about the type of things that we really believe in, and the industry is moving in that direction as well. And that comes down to and speaks back to your seasonality also, right? No longer do we want to be a business that is only providing you a service when you want to go to Vegas, when you want to attend an event, when you need to be tanned for something. We're working to educate and to not only ourselves, but hopefully the industry from a balanced perspective, people understand that we can be a part of your life for the long term, and we have the opportunities for you to be able to do that. It's not just an isolated experience where maybe your customer is 18 to 22 years old, and then once they age out, they're just not interested anymore. It's about broadening that range from a customer base and also from a customer age range. Pian, anything else you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think with the hybrid beds, that also is a big second shift we see. Like you said, it's not only for the tan, it's also taking care of your skin, taking care of yourself, enjoying that moment, relax your muscles. It's becoming so much more. And I think, at least in the Netherlands, we see people of all ages, 18 and up, enjoying this moment for themselves. And it might be interesting, we did a poll on our Instagram story a few weeks ago. And one of the questions was, why do you get a tan? And the option was to get a tan, or why do you enjoy your Ergoline moment? That's how we asked it. One was to get a tan, and the other one was for a me moment, just a moment for myself. And the moment for myself had the biggest outcome. It was 80-20, I think. So 20% came just for the tan, and 80% came for a moment for themselves. And we also asked what do you prefer, a normal tanning bed or a hybrid bed? And the hybrid won this challenge again, this poll again. People really like the hybrid because I think when you close your eyes, it's also a bit softer, a bit more like you're on a beach or on vacation somewhere.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And you said yesterday in our hybrid presentation that once you experience hybrid tanning, it's very uncommon to go back to traditional UV. It's one of those things where as hybrid is permeating the marketplace more and more and more, and kind of our European partners, it's really a long-term shift and what I believe is a permanent shift in the way we tan. And we're seeing that from the combination of various different light spectrums, but just people understanding a little bit more about how the tan works. There is a question that came up here in the ideas section. I'd like to address it for everyone, and then also ask for any other global perspectives as well. So the question is, are we allowed to advertise vitamin D in the US from our tanning bed? And I think this is fairly universal worldwide. And Sven and Gary or Pian, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. You cannot advertise that your Ergoline 550 creates or provides vitamin D in XYZ amount for customers. That's considered a medical claim. You can't make medical claims. What you absolutely can do is share information and share resources about how vitamin D is synthesized through UVA and UVB in the natural sun, which translates to a tanning salon as well. And then you can also certainly share any of the resources available, connecting those two things together. You can't look at your piece of equipment and say, that piece of equipment creates that much vitamin D in a single user. It's too specific. It's like looking at a treadmill and saying, if you use this treadmill, you're guaranteed to lose 20% of your body fat over the next 6 weeks. When we know it changes by user, it changes by experience, and it has a lot to do with the situation that tanners are coming in with, for example. We know that vitamin D is a hormone. It's synthesized different ways by different people. So no, you can't make that direct connection. And I don't think you can anywhere else. Gary, am I wrong about that? What's the perspective
correct.
from vitamin D and tanning in the UK?
That's absolutely correct. We as an industry and salons cannot make that claim. As you quite rightly say, that's considered a medical claim, and salons that have tried that have been stopped by the various advertising authorities. So we have to be much smarter, more clever in our wording, so we can allude to, but we can, as an industry, talk about the advantages of vitamin D whilst not saying a sunbed will help synthesize vitamin D. So I think we can do it, but we have to be more clever. We know it's true. Actually, I think the public know it's true now. We just can't outright go out and say it. It's probably the same across Europe as well.
Right, absolutely. Sven, any different interpretation on that?
No, absolutely the same. The interesting thing is that, you know, that every 10 years we make a representative request in Germany on how do people think about sun, tanning, etc. And one of the interesting outcomes was that people nowadays have more trust in tanning beds than in the natural sun, because they know that you have a controlled surrounding in a tanning bed. Whereas if you go tanning outside, it depends on height, on the weather conditions, etc., etc. If you're on the beach, mountains, whatever. So awareness has risen over the years. People are aware that there is a connection between UV light and vitamin D. And as Gary said, don't say anything like you said before, you can't tell people if you go to that bed, you will receive that amount of vitamin D. No, that's a medical claim. But getting the connection is actually nowadays, I think, very easy, and people are quite aware of it.
Also want to let people know that any resources that JK shares either on its website or resource page are resources that we have reviewed and we certainly feel like are shareable by operators. So I mean, that's not, you know, we're not saying that we conducted these studies. We're not saying that we're responsible for the medical information, but these are studies and verified information that we review before we put it out there. So certainly check out our resource page. There's 5 or 6 articles available. Maybe try to keep those updated on a fairly regular basis. Also share this type of information on our blog as well as on social media. So it's a we don't talk about. Soulconnect.com is our blog resource that you can find through the primary JK website. And it's a great spot for us to just be able to forward and push forward information about vitamin D, how the sun creates vitamin D, the benefits of vitamin D. And these are certainly things that you can use as salon owners as well. So all of that information is what we would consider to be accessible and easy to talk about. There was a comment here. It seems like some people are starting to advertise the connection between vitamin D and sunlight again. And I think that's absolutely true. We are seeing more of an openness from an advertising perspective. We would just caution any operators to be aware and also, you know, follow the general rule, which we have established is pretty much global. Don't make a direct connection between vitamin D synthesis and your tanning equipment. You have to put all of the pieces out there and let your customers make the small connections between how vitamin D is created through UV light. And Sven, you're absolutely right. People certainly trust an indoor tan a lot more than they do an outdoor tan. I live in Florida and can attest to the fact that most of the time people would prefer to go get a tan inside before way overexposing themselves out on the beach or in the sun. And I also see the other side of that quite often. Go to the airport and see our unfortunate tourists who have just absolutely overexposed themselves in the Florida sunshine. And as a native to Florida, walking like their back hurt, bright red shoulders, bright red faces. We certainly don't endorse that, but we certainly endorse having the opportunity for a more controlled creation of your base tan, and as well as vitamin D production through UV as well. So I don't want to take us too long overdue today. I know that if there are any other questions that you're interested in having answered today, please go ahead and type those in. As we're getting ready to wrap up the topics that we had planned to talk about for today. If there's anything left that you guys still have on your mind, certainly don't hold back from asking those questions. There's a few questions up on the polls as well. Respond to those if you have other topics. So I would like to hear from all 3 of our panelists today. Generally, what, from an optimistic perspective, do you see in the next 3 to 5 years happening in the industry? I know it's like looking into a crystal ball, similar to our budget this year. But if you could make predictions about the next 3 to 5 years after coming out of 2020, what would those be? And what do you feel like those themes would be? Gary, I'll come to you first.
I'm going to use the words trust Ergoline, because what this COVID experience has shown us is the weaknesses in all businesses. And I remember, I think it was 2008, 2009, during the financial crash, I think it was Warren Buffett that said, now we're going to know as the tide goes out who's wearing swim shorts. And I think that this period has shown the strengths and weaknesses of companies. And I am so proud to be with Ergoline because we're a strong company, and salons, if they trust us, and they should trust us, we can provide them with the best resources over the next few months to get them back on track. So as a positive outlook, I would say that we are ready, willing, and able to give the public what I think they're craving for. And I think they're craving for that, as we've said before, that personal moment to themselves, that time when they're not looking at their phone, to sunbathe in safety and in comfort. I believe that the future is bright, and I think the future is Ergoline.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gary. Sven, how about you?
Absolutely agree with Gary. I couldn't have said it better. No, like I said before, I'm absolutely convinced that we have great potential with our industry. We can see that all the efforts we took to become more professional, to broaden our range of offers to our customer is bearing fruit now. And as Gary said, we will be stronger in the end, not only because we are JK and because we are the JK family, but also because we have something you can't get online, you can't get anywhere else. And same as Pien said before, people come because they want to have these 20, 30 minutes time on their own and be alone with themselves in a nice surrounding.
Absolutely. Pien, how about you?
I'm very optimistic for the tanning industry in the future. Just because of all the topics we already talked about, I feel like the shift in mindset towards tanning has changed, and I think it will change more. People appreciate that little moment more. I also think we have proven ourselves to be a very hygienic and safe environment. So this will, these hygiene rules will stick with us for years probably. So I'm happy that we already were on a very good level there. But for marketing perspective, we really looking forward to connecting more with the end consumer in the future. And I'm sure we can now, because of all of this, what happened, the end consumer is more willing to connect with us as on a global level, and all tanning salons worldwide will benefit from that. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I agree with you. I absolutely agree that we're very optimistic about the future of the industry. And while we have really sometimes hung on by our fingernails over the last year trying to get to the other side, what we're left with from a consumer perspective and opportunity perspective is completely different than what we've seen in many years. It really gives us the opportunity to respond smartly, to continue to convey the message and preach the message of balanced sun exposure, supporting modalities like red light or the well system relax, and being able to heighten the experience that you give everybody in the salon. There's a lot of things that I don't believe are going away. And the other panelists pointed to that. This level of sanitation and cleanliness requirements, they're not going anywhere. There's certainly going to be a required foundational piece of your operations moving forward so that your customers feel comfortable. Gary's right, they should have always been, but this was a huge wake-up call for us. Thankfully, we didn't have to rebuild salons, hang new walls, do all sorts of crazy things that sometimes other retailers or businesses had to do. It proved that we were in a really good position to adjust, but it also proved that we really needed to check our practices, make sure that we're cleaning appropriately, sanitizing appropriately. And I always encourage operators, similar to walking through their entire customer experience, go tan in your tanning rooms, right? You're going into rooms, you're in a very vulnerable position, you're taking off your clothes, you're certainly looking around in the cracks and crevices and on the floorboards and that type of thing. You're very observant of what's going on. You've got a few minutes alone to yourself in that room to really only kind of look around while you're putting on lotion or getting ready for your session. And I encourage operators to do the same thing. Be aware. Be aware of what your end consumer is experiencing, because sometimes we forget, we're overexposed to it, we see it too often, and it kind of puts blinders on, unless we're going into a tanning room looking for something specific, cleaning or changing lamps. Sometimes we forget to check the filters, look under the bed, look around the trash cans, really put a critical eye on these things as well. We saw a few poll responses coming through that I thought were pretty interesting, just asking what other we're offering in addition to tanning. We saw red light, we saw teeth whitening, we also saw a lot of lotions and cosmetics as well, and a lot of spray tanning. And we're really encouraging you to not only think about what level or color of tan would you like, but what would you like to go along with your tan today? What type of modality or what type of experience can we add to a tanning session or even a spray tan to either create more value to the customer or prolong their experience a little bit? Let them have a session, for example, on the Well System Relax while they're waiting. It's a great way to monetize your wait times. It's a great way to create revenue out of time that normally would just be spent waiting for the next room to open up. So we're really encouraging you to look at those things from a little bit different perspective, from a renewed perspective, and certainly want to be here to support you to do those things as well. So we will wrap up just a little bit early today. I want to make you aware that we will have recordings available on YouTube over the next couple of days as we finish up the Ergoline experience. So if you missed something today, you missed some audio, we hope that you can come back and take a look at the recordings and pick up on any information that you might have missed out on. I'll go around to the panelists now and just ask for any closing comments, thoughts, words that they have as we get ready to wrap up for today. And Pian, I'll start with you.
So first of all, thanks everyone for keeping up with us today. And yeah, I hope you all stay positive and find that positive mood, just as we have. Really, the future is bright for us in the tanning industry. I believe that. And I just want to tell you all, like, hang in there, keep on going. And the future is Ergoline, like Gary said.
Yeah, thanks, Pian. Gary, how about you? Any final words or thoughts for the day?
Well, I think we've said so much about the positivity. I restate, I'm very proud to be in the tanning industry. I believe that we're in a unique place in the high street, in the main street, whatever. And I think that we will stay positive. I believe that there is a latent demand for what we have. All I can say is reiterate the message: stay positive, but also stay COVID negative.
Gary, you took my final
Absolutely,
words.
that's a good tagline. Gary really delivering all the one-liners today. We can always depend on him for the quote of the day. So thank you for that. Sven, how about you?
I was just about to say, Gary just took my final words, because that is what I wanted to say. Overall, I think, especially the last year, and of course this year as well, has shown it is all about being connected. It is about us being connected in the industry. So thank you for setting up that panel. That is really a great event, and it's so fantastic to share all these experiences worldwide. And again, it shows that we are all part of the JK family, of the Ergoline family. But connection also means stay in connection with your customers, stay in connection with your friends, talk about all the positive things we can offer. And like Pian said, I'm also so positive about our future, because I see so much potential and so many possibilities. So let's move forward. Keep a stiff upper lip. Keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will certainly reiterate that as well as we go through a few wrap-up comments. I want to say an extra special thank you to all of our panelists today, Pian and Gary and Sven. Thank you for participating in your various time zones. For you, I know it's much later in the day than it is here, but I think it's so important for us to hear from each other, to echo what Sven said. And I have to admit, a bit of a spark of an idea happened as Gary was telling us that Warren Buffett quote, which we're going to look up later and put on the website for you, of really working through ideas for our next Ergoline experience. And it makes me think about really having a bit of a business out preparing for hard times, preparing for the unknown. Nobody would have known that information. Nobody would have really known how to prepare for a global pandemic this time last year, but now here we are. And so what can we do to start our business moving forward and really kind of be prepared for the unknown moving forward? But just some ideas there. We really have tried hard to respond to engagement and information that we received in November. You guys had a lot of questions about operations. You had a lot of questions about marketing. And so we have responded, and we are continuing to respond. So please keep asking your questions. Please keep making us aware of how we can show up for you, of how we can serve you as a manufacturer and as a business partner as we all get through this together. Once again, I really grateful for partners worldwide today. Now, we have had almost 300 participants throughout the day today. It's just me because the focus of these 2 days is not just to tell you about promotions and sales, to really talk to you about operations and to talk to you about service and how to move your business forward. And clearly that's what's needed. Clearly that's the information that operators are craving, and we're absolutely working hard to provide that for you. So keep communicating with us, and we will keep doing our best to show up for you in any way we can. We'll be back at 1 o'clock, so you have a 20-minute break. Go take a bio break, grab a bite to eat, maybe refill your coffee, and we'll see you here at 1. Thank you again, everybody, and have a great afternoon.
See you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.